and I know this may sound very cliche, but information overload on social media, or I'm struggling with a mental health challenge.
Welcome to The Search for Wellness, a podcast dedicated to discovering the path to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Join us on this heartfelt journey as we share inspiring stories, insightful conversations, and practical tips to nurture your mind, body, and spirit.
Zainab Jagani is a deep transformational coach, an aspiring associate certified coach, and a self-development workshop facilitator. Since 2018, she has guided individuals towards connecting with the most authentic selves, blending deep coaching and mental health first aid into her approach. Having experienced her own profound transformation, Zainab is passionate about helping others move from surviving to thriving through self-leadership, growth, and a meaningful conversation. Welcome, Zainab.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you.
I'm surprised when you told me that this is your first ever podcast. When I met you, I felt you speak so well. You're so empowering, at least to me. So I had to have you on the podcast. So welcome to Search for Wellness.
Thank you.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
And as we've stepped into the fact that that is one of the main things that you work with, is coaching people through that mental health and transforming their lives. Let's go straight into the questions. You talk about transformation. What was the one thing that transformed your life?
Thank you for having me in the podcast here today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. So the first inception of transformation for me was what happened at home. And you know how they say charity begins at home. So my journey as a mom is where transformation really began for me. I became a mom to my firstborn 15 years ago. And it was at that time, through that relationship, where I realized how disconnected I was with myself, how unaware I was. And at that time, I was doing the best I could, right? But there were moments where I felt such deep disconnection, such low points. The relationship with my child was just mirroring that disconnection within. And what that looked like was this high functioning anxiety. Parenting was hard, very hard. There was suffering in that parenting. Yes, parenting sometimes still is hard, but suffering is a choice in relationships. And at that time, there was this sense of wanting to control every element. There were times where I would be very angry and express that in ways that were not helping the relationship. They were harming the relationship that I had with my son. So there was deep disconnection. I would yell. I would do things that were really not in alignment of who I truly was, but I didn't know who I was at that time. And so, the guilt of having those behaviors in that relationship was very, very high. And what I did at that time was to look for all these books that I could find and look for all these behavioral modification strategies, parent this way, do this, do that. And that would help for like a week or 2 weeks. And then I would go back to those other behaviors like yelling or being very angry with my child. I realized that this isn't working. And then there came a point where my son began to mirror those behaviors back to me. And that's when it really hit me that, okay, I have a choice here. I really, really want to change because I am playing a part in the creation of this. Taking accountability helped me to tap into the sense of responsibility I had in that situation. And when I say responsibility, I don't mean from a sense of the chores or the things I needed to do, but how I would choose to respond and to take action going forward, and when you're ready, they say that when you're ready, when the student is ready, the teachers appear, right? Exactly. And so at that point is when I had people in my life who supported me to really see that anger or see that part of myself for what it was, which is so interesting because that anger was like, just masking a lot of pain and sadness and all of that. And when that was seen and held is when I was able to really connect with myself first and then cultivate deeper connection with my son after. And that relationship, that parenting dynamic completely shifted when I first allowed myself to be seen by myself fully.
And who are these teachers?
That's a good question. So it began from community work. There was a developmental program that was organized, and I happened to be in there. And the facilitators at that point, we'd have like a reflection circle every morning. And there was one reflection circle that I attended. And it just really unlocked so much of this anger and this pain. And one of the facilitators was just amazing in terms of holding space for me to experience that.
And was there any small moment in that where you had that massive transformation?
Yes, you know, there was also the recognition that transformation is not like a microwave shift. Even though I made the intention of changing, even though I chose to recognize the emotions and the thoughts that came through with it, the behavior change didn't just instantaneously shift completely. There was a human element to transformation. There's like times when I would yell again, but then slowly by slowly that would decrease. Extending that compassion to myself during that transformative journey was very, very helpful.
At the end of the day, life is going to throw many curveballs at you, right? I mean, it's a wave that we're riding. We just have to ride the wave.
Yeah.
So anything and everything that's going to come at us, it's how we respond to it, how we are going to react to it.
Exactly.
And I think in any situation, but one of the most important situations of our life, which is mothering, parenting,
Yeah.
we get thrown many situations. You're telling me your son is 15. My twin boys are 11. And obviously it's a beauty and a pleasure in having kids and growing up with them and the joy and all of that.
Yeah.
But there's also ups and downs, there's ins and outs and all of that. And it's just how we respond to those situations and how responsive we are. Instead of being reactive, we need to be more proactive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that can only happen when we've worked on whatever it is that makes us reactive, which is an inner process. When I began to look for those ways to respond and be proactive outside of me. And yes, I do not nullify all those amazing intellectual things that we are that have been shared with us. They're very, very helpful, definitely. But then there's also this other element in a relationship of how you choose to show up, which is hugely sourced by how you show up with yourself, how you experience yourself. And the more you work on that, then there's an overspill and overflow to the different relationships around you.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah. Is there some sort of belief system that you hold firmly and you know that you used to hold firmly, let's say, and you've completely let go of now?
Oh, so many.
The list?
So many. The list is very long. But I think one thing that stands out, attaching a sense of self-worth to the things that I do and the different relationships that I am in. So for instance, in the perspective of coaching, the projects that I get or the number of coaching clients, for example, that I have, not attaching a sense of worth to that has been a huge shift in belief for me. And in respect to the relationships aspect that we were talking about, even in my parenting journey, what my child chooses to do is not a reflection of my sense of self-worth. And once I create that detachment, once I created that shift in belief, it sort of liberated me and my kids as well to give each of us the freedom to show up in our most authentic ways.
Finding that is so important also in many ways. I think for me, one of the things that I also like, a bit like you, I've probably had like a list of things that I have changed my belief system in. One of the most important things that I have changed my faith and my belief system in is caving into fear. And we stepped into that a little earlier before we started recording about what I said to you about how everything is driven by fear. Fear sells. And we spoke a little bit about how growing up, you were told, no, don't do that. God will punish you. And there was a fear element aspect that we need to fear God. If you fear him, then you will worship him. If you fear him, then you will remember him. What is God? God is all he is love.
Yeah.
So to remove that fear
Yeah.
and to have faith instead of fear.
Yes.
And I changed that with my kids too. So with my own children, instead of using the God will punish you, it never happens. That sentence doesn't exist anymore.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And then when that fear is sort of replaced with faith and connection and respect, then there's an opening for that God consciousness to spill in.
Yeah.
Which is
And then if you have faith in one thing, then you're going to have faith in another.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have faith in more and more and more. And then you're going to slowly start to believe that fear just sells.
Yeah.
Fear just sells. That's all it does. It's not worth fearing over anything.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. And in that perspective, I feel that transformation sometimes, the modern day transformation, is really driven by fear as well. You know, we all know what we should know. And I really put that in quote because the should, you know, everyone should be feeling worthy of themselves. And the fear of not being that sometimes dilutes the authenticity of what transformation really is, which is just allow the good, the bad, the ugly. There's no judgment there. Allow what is real for you, allow what is alive for you to come up so that you can authentically experience a shift in being internally.
Do you see that in your coaching?
Yes.
A lot of it is driven by fear, maybe?
Yes, the fear of not having it all right and the fear of not being perfect. Oh, that's big. And then that contributes to imposter syndrome, where I feel like I'm a fraud, or where I've noticed or I've experienced and witnessed clients feeling like they're frauds in what they do because of the fear of not being perfect, the fear of not doing what they need to do, because of that, the levels of productivity and expectations that society and systems sometimes have on us. And so those fears are very alive. But again, when we create space to come back to ourselves and to really create that awareness internally, we allow that fear, that space. We give room to that. And then there is a guidance underneath that. What wants to happen? Who do I choose to be going forward? Do I want to listen to this fear, or do I want to keep moving forward and push past the fear? Or do I want to choose faith, for example? Do I want to choose trust? Do I want to choose surrender instead? So the fear is very alive for a lot of people, and it has a part to play in this.
Whenever I have seen this fear creep in, we almost lose a sense of authenticity with it too, right? Like, it is very hard to find authenticity these days. We're all being brought here with a purpose, right? Something that we said that we would do. And then we just almost get misaligned from that purpose, and to bring us back into that authentic self. And authenticity is the most important thing, I believe, in my understanding, is what can bring people back into that alignment. What is your thoughts on authenticity?
I totally agree with you. And at the end of the day, I really also believe that everyone's just trying to do the best that they can in terms of being themselves. But unfortunately, the noise that we are surrounded with in terms of information overload on social media, we all know what we are supposed to be, right? But we don't allow space for the authentic version of us that doesn't know. I could be in my process where I don't know where I am. I don't know what, not where I am, but I don't know what my purpose is, for instance. Or I'm struggling with a mental health challenge, for example, or I'm struggling in some other part. But what society does is will push these quotes, or will push this way of being that this is the quick fix. But sometimes part of authenticity is having the courage to say that this is what's alive for me right now.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I'm in this rut. I'm in this situation. This is what it is. So not bypassing the unpleasant, the intense, the hard things. Creating narratives around allowing that messiness to exist, allowing the arduous part of transformation to be, and not expecting somebody to have it figured out. Let's create a sense of meeting people where they are. This is your mess, and that's okay. I see you, I accept you, and I allow you to be in this mess. And you know what? If I can, I will be there for you as you process this. So this idealistic way of perfectionism is something that I feel contributes to people not being able to really be their authentic self.
But what is putting this idealistic of perfectionism on them? Isn't it themselves putting it on them? And but you as a coach, you're probably helping people look at it from that angle where, hey, maybe it's not that person outside. Yes, we want to strive to be like XYZ,
Yes.
but yet we're not there.
Yeah.
But who is putting this pressure on us to be in that person's place?
Absolutely. So there's two things. I would say society has this narrative because you see, pain is difficult. It's not easy. Intense emotions, unpleasant ways of being. It's tough, right? And the way we are engineered as human beings in our childhood, we do anything we can to avoid that pain, because it's difficult to experience that. But as we grow up into adults, we're now resourced enough to be able to sit with that pain. Now, when I see clients, sometimes I notice when they're trying to avoid some sort of pain. So that's where I come in and I challenge them and I supportively, kindly also direct them back to it, that this is the uncomfortable thing that you need to sit with. This part, which is very difficult for you, let's go there, because that's where the gift is. So there is part of society which avoids those unpleasantness and bypasses that. You're very correct in saying that it comes down to the individual as well that is trying to avoid it. Some of the sessions that I host is a reminder and a lot of permission that you are resourced, you are capable, you are able to come back to those difficult ways of being, those difficult core beliefs, the difficult emotions that are alive for you, and you can work through them.
Sitting with that, you're so right about the sitting with that difficulty.
Yeah.
Feeling that, not, you don't have to feel the pain again. You don't have to feel the emotion again. You don't have to feel with it, but you need to sit with it to understand it's okay. So what do you do as a mental health first aider? What are some of the simple practices that you do yourself, and maybe the tips that you give your clients?
Some of the things that I personally do and I inculcate in the daily practices, which I absolutely love, is having a good solid morning ritual. I think that really sets the day, and it sets my internal health for the day, so that no matter what happens, gives me a sense of resilience, right? So the first thing is a little bit of meditation in the morning to just create some spaciousness within me and some silence. And in fact, just before we started recording, I was talking about how beautiful it is to be in this silence. It's just amazing. There's that. And then having a good journaling practice. For journaling, I like to have a little bit of a sequence. So I begin with a little bit of gratitude journaling, just to begin the day with that sense of empowerment and reminder with all the amazing things that are happening in our day-to-day lives. I mean, there's so much to be grateful for. And when I say journaling, like a gratitude journaling, I do not mean just creating a mechanical list of what, you're grateful for, but really taking a moment to feel that embodied sense of gratitude for all the amazing things. So for example, if it's nature, like really tap into that sensation within your body about what it is that nature does for you. And that's really beautiful. So there's the gratitude piece. And then so writing a little bit about what is going well for you. Like, what are you proud of? What are you winning at? The third part in the journaling is just a sense of creation, intentionality in the day. What do I want today to look like? Or what is my intention for the day, for instance? So those two things are a great power start for me during the day. And something else that I've learned recently, or have been more keen on, physical movement. Oh my gosh, it has had a huge impact on my mental health well-being. So whether it is a walk or it is working out or whatever it is, and I think the idea is begin small and then build up to that. But that's been huge for my mental health.
Movement is medicine.
Yes.
Movement is truly medicine, and I feel it when I don't move. I feel it when I haven't worked out. I feel it in my mental health immediately. I feel it.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. What are some of your favorite types of workouts that you like to do?
So I've been doing strength training, which I hated in the beginning, but then now I love it. I am absolutely enjoying it. And I love going for a walk in nature. That is just so beautiful, listening to a great podcast Or then sometimes even just not listening to
Yeah.
anything, but listening to the sounds of the birds. Or, here in Kenya, we have such beautiful weather and soaking in the sunshine and, the whole element of.
Just being in nature on its own is just so
Indeed.
therapeutic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you were to make somebody a self-leadership starter kit, okay, and you were only allowed to put 3 key elements in there, what would those 3 key elements be?
As you build your mental health,
Yeah.
you're also building a sense of self-esteem, which means you're also building a sense of self-leadership,
Yeah.
which I think it's like killing 2 birds with one stone.
One stone,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would I put in my 3?
Yeah.
I would probably put meditation for sure. I would probably definitely put movement.
Yes.
And I think the third one that I would put is good nutrition.
Oh,
is
amazing.
like just fueling your body with the right kind of nutrition, the right kind of food. Because the minute you are fueled and your body is fueled, then everything else is fueled.
Amazing.
I mean, I would put more and more like sleep, and the list can go on and on. But
Totally.
yeah.
And it's also interesting to note that, having worked with a few different people, I feel that different things work for different people.
Exactly.
So like, as I mentioned, journaling, for somebody else, journaling is not something they connect to.
Yeah.
And we both mentioned meditation, but for another person, maybe sitting in nature is their form of meditation.
Exactly.
And that sense of
even
mindfulness.
walking in nature is their form of meditation.
Exactly. So I think the key is to find what works for you and then stick to that.
I also think that transformation gets very like glamorized. Like, it's like, oh, I've had a transformation, right? But no one gets to see the real messy parts of that transformation. Do you have any insight into some of the messiest parts of transformation that you have seen in your coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. With transformation, there's a dual dynamic happening. So there's an element of letting go, and then there's an element of letting come. So when I say letting go, sometimes there's this misconception that we're just letting go, like we're rejecting something. So it could be rejection of an unpleasant, intense emotion. It could be the rejection of a core belief that I may have had that isn't serving me. When in reality, that letting go part is not really a rejection. It is a wholesome acceptance that I experienced this or I have experienced this. But you don't let that define you, and you don't let that define the choices that you're making. Sometimes that part is the intense, messy part because it's difficult to experience intense emotions, to sit with them. Until you have mastered how to sit with them in the beginning, it can be a little unpleasant. It can be a little intense. So those are the messy parts of transformation. It's easy to share the successes, but it's not that easy to share the process, which can be messy. So sometimes that letting go, that process of giving space and permission to be in that unpleasant, messy part isn't necessarily given. And that's why I feel that transformation sometimes is only glamorized to the letting come part. Now, the letting come part is we all have innate power, innate gifts that are individual and unique to each and every one of us. And part of transformation is allowing yourself to really connect to that power. So for instance, if it's a sense of focus or determination, rather than just saying it, but really embodying and allowing that sense of determination to come through. So a lot of the times we share that part of it, but we don't share
the real stuff that goes through it, right?
Yes.
I think another example of that is when you have a baby, right?
Yeah.
Everyone talks about, oh, it's so nice, it's so whatever, but no one tells you how hard it is to first of all go through the pregnancy, to give birth, to have that, to bring up that child. It's hard work, but no one gives you a manual on that, right? They don't give you that messy part of it.
Yes.
And then you just see the transformation of turning into a mom.
Yes, indeed. That is like the perfect analogy for this. Indeed, yeah.
Can you tell me a story about somebody, maybe a client that you helped that had a huge transformation, something that you thought, wow, a huge breakthrough that even you were surprised with, and what it was?
So we'll call this lady Joyce.
Okay.
Right? So Joyce came to me for some coaching for this one particular session, which was just amazing. She said that, you know what, Zainab, I don't know who I am. Like, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. I have my professional accolades and titles, but I really don't know who I am. Like, internally, who am I? And I was like, okay, that's a beautiful, big, bold, beautiful question. And what are we going to do with it? I don't know who you are, but let's discover, let's find out. And this was an online session, so I asked her if she had a mirror with her. This is not usually a technique or anything that I use, but instinctively I felt called to just ask if she had a mirror. And I trusted that within me. And she did. She had a portable mirror, which she doesn't usually keep next to her laptop, but that day it was there.
How amazing.
Right?
There are no coincidences.
Synchronicities,
Yeah.
totally. She brought that mirror, and I guided her to just really look into that mirror and really see herself and look into her eyes. And that puja was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever witnessed, because in that moment, she really got to see who she is. And I'm not just talking about the physical aspects. It was through her connection with her eyes and looking at herself, there was this huge unearthing of life. And when I say life, I mean the good, the bad, the sadness, the pain, the recognition of all the times that she had abandoned herself, the times where she had chosen something else other than what she wanted. And witnessing her as she experienced that was just so incredibly amazing, because what flowed after that, after she honored all this, is when then she was able to cultivate this deep self-connection with herself, with her strengths, with her values, and what she wanted to do going forward. That was something that I wouldn't have imagined at the start of the session, that this is how it's going to unfold. But at the end of it, it was honestly such an honor to witness something so beautiful.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
And so lovely to hear. When you hear transformations like that, you just feel like you are fulfilling your purpose in life, right?
Yeah, indeed.
You are doing exactly what you were meant to do.
Absolutely. Indeed. Indeed.
And imagine that journey of yours started from a place where you were trying to find yourself also after becoming a mom.
Absolutely. Indeed.
You say you're a lifelong learner. What is one thing or something that you are currently unlearning?
Again, so much. This list is so long.
This podcast was created to inspire and connect with people. If you are liking the content of this podcast, hit the subscribe button, like, follow, and share this platform. Lots of love.
One of the biggest things that I'm learning at the moment, as I do the work that I do, I try my best to embody a sense of service. When I interact with people, when I create these workshops with this intentionality, the purpose is always to be the highest level of service to somebody. But again, service has so many different layers. And I think what I'm discovering currently is learning what service isn't. And so that's where the unlearning piece is, where service is not pleasing somebody, not telling them what they want to hear. Sometimes being honest and challenging them. Sometimes showing them the part they played in their own journey, or in their own successes, or in their own failures, or whatever that looks like. So for me currently, I'm really diving in the waters of experiencing, learning, embodying deeper levels of service.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I think that's amazing.
I'm actually curious. What is your lesson that you're going through right now?
The one thing that I am learning to unlearn in my life is it's okay to say no.
Oh.
And it's okay to say no without giving a reason why you're saying no. And it's a very important lesson, especially as a mom, as a woman, you know, as a giver, because it's just in my innate nature to just give. And it's okay to just say no, and that's it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And very powerful.
Yeah.
Very, very.
And very difficult.
Yes, I hear you. Yes, indeed.
It's actually sometimes difficult. You have to hold yourself and just, no.
Indeed. I love that. I love that.
And I'm trying to teach my kids that too.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
You don't have to give a reason behind the no. It's okay to say no.
Yeah, indeed. Beautiful.
If you could whisper one truth into the ear of everyone feeling stuck right now, what would it be?
I would say you do not have to do life alone. whatever challenge it is you're going through, whatever thing you feel that is difficult, you don't have to do it alone. You can connect with something bigger than yourself, more powerful than yourself, whether you call it God or you call it universe or source or whatever it is for you. When you open yourself up to that, you automatically open other pathways, be it through getting support from other ways. Connecting to something that's greater than you just enables you to open so many more possibilities and pathways for yourself. And it may be through seeing things differently for yourself and seeing different things that are options. Or alternatively, other things will just open up, just the way we were talking about earlier, that when you make the intention of sort of connect to something else bigger than you, there's a sense of guidance or opening that takes place, and so many other possibilities just unfold.
Just unfold.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think we haven't spoken about today that is very important, maybe regarding the mental health in our community, something that you feel like we need to step into and address?
Absolutely. I feel that as much as the narratives around mental health are changing, which I love, it's beautiful to see different genders, different ages speaking more and more about mental health. I feel that it is important.
You feel like we're not there yet?
Yeah, there's still work there.
Yeah, there's still work there.
Yeah.
There is awareness around mental health.
Yeah.
But in that awareness, there is also a lack of help. So people are aware that they have these issues and stuff and everything, but there's also this void of loneliness. There's a sense of loss of community, right? Before, it was so easy because we would all be sitting and having dinners together, friends meeting up, meals together, all of this stuff. But now there's so many people who live on their own, who work on their computer, who have dinner in front of the TV, who do all of this stuff. And so that's where I think the shift needs to happen. The awareness is there, but the awareness is there only after you go through all of this.
Yeah.
I think we need to come back and create that sense of community again, bring people together again. None of this competing, all of that, just a sense of belonging together, because community is where power is. That's where our power lies.
So what do you think is stopping us or is inhibiting us from fostering a sense of community? Because that used to be there a few years ago.
I think it's just this disconnect from society. The internet, the social media. We feel like we're in a community, but we're in an online community. There's too much of the sense of join. You can be in an online community, like if you're in a group chat or whatever, but there's this sense of looking at someone's video or listening to someone's podcast, and you feel like that person, and that person's become part of your community, but there's still a sense of loneliness. Just even sharing a meal, like as a community, just sharing a meal together, eating with people, that on its own is just going to bring your hormones back up. It's just going to lift your moods up. It's going to increase the serotonin. Exercising. I think exercising is another great way to bring back that sense of community. And I think that's the other thing that we've lost, is a lot of people exercise at home, they exercise online. Joining a gym is a really good one, or going for a group class is a really good one. Yes, it's nice to be alone. It's nice to walk in nature. It's nice to do all of that stuff, but to still feel that sense of belonging.
I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. And those shared experiences cultivate that connection and connectivity. And remind us that we don't have to do life alone, and we aren't alone. That's beautiful.
Anything you'd like to ask me?
Yes, I do actually want to ask you something, which is in line with transformation. I know that you have gone through a journey of transformation after your cancer diagnosis, being witness to many people who, and my own journey, whereby sometimes I would set an intention to change certain aspects, like maybe habits or whatever it is. It's difficult to continuously have that discipline to stick to that. As you intended to create change in your life, and you chose to embrace biohacking and a different way of being and a different lifestyle, what was the thing that grounded you or kept you going, even during days where it may have been challenging, to continue with this new lifestyle?
I think for me, it's a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and my intuition. My intuition has always been very strong.
Yeah.
And even from the time I was telling you earlier about when I did get diagnosed and when I was told that I need to have more treatment,
Yeah.
I felt like somebody punched me in my stomach. But that was my intuition. My intuition woke up and told me, you don't need this. You just need to listen to me and I will guide you. And I literally felt like my body and my mind and everything just spoke to me. And that sense of purpose, just having that sense of purpose and just in the knowing that I know that I'm on the right track. I know that I'm doing the right thing. It may or may not agree with everyone around me, but it agrees with me and it sits with me. And I think I've just really trained my mind and I've really changed my belief system. And so now, yes, maybe once in a while you go out, you fall out of track or whatever and something. But again, it's not what you do once in a while that matters. It's what you do every day that counts. The thing that really brings me back to me is always grounding, being in nature, just connecting to Mother Earth, just listening to her speak. I mean, she heals us in all aspects, in all elements. And I feel like a lot of my healing and a lot of my, empowerment has come from Mother Nature and from being in nature. And then the other one that obviously we both are big fans of is meditation, but specifically just Dr. Joe's meditations, just going for his retreats and learning from him and just learning to change your belief system, learning to work with your mind, learning to be able to manifest anything and everything you want in your life and just having control over your life.
Yeah.
The fact that it's your life, you have the choices, you make the choices.
Yeah.
No one else makes these choices for you.
Yeah.
And life will throw you shifts and curveballs and whatever and everything. And you just have to knock them out of the way.
Yeah.
And just keep moving forward.
Indeed, indeed. I love that. I love that. I love the last piece about this sense of agency that you have. It's your life. You get to create it.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's
You're
really
welcome.
awesome.
Where can people find you? Because I know that you're absolutely amazing at what you do and people need you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So I am visible on and I'm present on Instagram. I have just joined LinkedIn, but I'm very new there, so I'm still building a sense of presence there. Aside from that, I'll share my email address with you.
Okay.
And perhaps we can tag it.
Yes. So I'll put all of that. I'll put your Instagram page. I'll even put your LinkedIn page if you like. And I'll also put your email address there so anyone can reach out to you. If they want to do the coaching program with you, they can speak to you about it directly.
Absolutely.
Or even if they want to do a workshop with you, because I know you do host workshops, right?
Yes, I do. I do host workshops on my own, and I also collaborate with a friend of mine. And one of the workshops that we just created is sort of an amalgamation of holding space, which I bring, and she's an artist, so she allows for that creative expression of whatever comes up. So those are really fun workshops that we curate, and we curate them based on each client's tailor-made needs, or individual needs rather. And yeah, those are just, they don't even feel like work. They feel like play. They're beautiful.
It sounds amazing. I think I want to come and attend one of those workshops.
Wonderful. You're most welcome.
Okay.
Anytime.
Let me know when the next one is.
I will for sure.
This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we've shared quite a bit, and I've learned a lot from you today, and you're always inspiring, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much. Awesome.